based on the Stephen King novel from 1980. Firestarter. Will she have the power to survive? So, like I said, based on the Stephen King novel, and not to be an iconoclast here, but I've never really been that much of a Stephen King fan in terms of his writing, okay? I have to admit, okay, he has a lot of good characters and villains and good stories, but I just don't like his style, his prose, to be particular. But there's no denying that, like I said, Misery's a great story, The Shining, and a lot of his books have been adapted into very entertaining films. This is one I've never seen until now, so I'm gonna get into it. Yeah, as you can see here, it's the young Drew Barrymore movie. It's almost like Baby Carrie. She's got, let me introduce the characters and the storyline here. So her father, it's kind of a chase film for most of it. It's a really long film, like an hour and 50 minutes. And David Keith plays her father. If you've seen the guy, he's a very recognizable actor. He's been a perennial actor for many decades now. Very familiar face. And when he's younger, he volunteers. It's one of those like experiments, like, hey, you're the human guinea pig, essentially. We'll shoot you up with a drug, see how you react to it. He does this with a room full of patients. One of them is a young Heather Locklear, actually, and it's an experimental compound. The doctor describes it as a hypnotic hallucinogen. And the doctor isn't even privy to what the compound is. And it's never really fully explained from what I gather watching it the first time. So after the injection, him and Heather Locklear, they're kind of stationed on the same beds neighboring each other. And they experience euphoria. And in it, they develop an instant telethesia connection with each other. While the other patients, it has adverse effects on them. They have this painful stigmata. They're like bleeding out their eyes, but they're still enjoying their buzz. I mean, that is David Keith and Heather Locklear. So they fall in love, and since this compound engendered them with these telekinetic powers, they have a baby, and that's where Drew Barrymore is spawned. And with the combination of them both, she's born essentially with these pyromancy skills, the ability to create fire, hence Firestarter. So obviously the government is running this whole experiment, and of course their ultimate goal is to use it for obviously military reasons, to use it as a weapon. So they're on the run for most of the film. Drew Barrymore and her father. Heather Locklear only appears in flashbacks because the government ends up executing her. And so Drew Barrymore, she's like any other child. As a petulant child, she wields this power irresponsibly. Whenever she has tantrums, shit will start turning on fire, water will start boiling, complete perdition and destruction all around her, including death. And she does a great job, and she's just so cute in this at a young age, and this is right around the time, obviously, of E.T. Anyway, so they're on the run, and the doctor who administered this whole thing, he waltzes into the chief's office, who's the head of this division, played by Martin Sheen, and warns them like, yo, you have to execute him or something. I mean, he's completely paranoid, and Martin Sheen is heedless to this potential cataclysm. And his main goon in this is George C. Scott, who does this amazing role. George C. Scott's in plenty of films, including The Hustler, and Yeah, he's got this eye patch. He's a total goon in this, and they call him the executioner almost, and he's got this Bond villain kind of aura to him. Great performance by him, and Drew Barrymore's father, his name's Andy. He isn't a bad guy, but he has these white trash values. So they're on the run, and he only really cares about him and his daughter. But I mean, he's put in like a dire situation on the run. He knows that the government just wants to use him for his powers and whatnot. He's got the ability to control someone's mind and make him do what he wants. He doesn't have pyromancy skills. Anyway, eventually they're captured and held captive after George C. Scott snipes them with a tranquilizer. And then the film takes another half an hour here where they're all captive, and George C. Scott befriends Drew Barrymore under this guise. And of course, you can only imagine here, it all ends in flames. It's essentially Drew Barrymore is like a baby Carrie, you could almost say. And it's like a Carrie-esque ending where she starts blowing up shit. And they waste a ton of money blowing up everything in the ending. And it's just all a blur of flickering flames. So, it kind of goes on a little too long. It's a little bit too lengthy. But it's still a very entertaining film. I recommend. It's worth the view. I will watch it eventually again. So, for that matter, I give it a B. I think I pretty much said all I have in terms of thoughts on this. I was about to film this, and then my computer was like logging off automatically, and it was like, we're downloading Windows 10 for you automatically. I'm like, what the hell? And I just shut it off. Anyway, so I had to start it back up. This was JBM for Mr. Creepshow 9. Tune in next week. Every Saturday I try to do a review, whether it be a horror movie, sci-fi, comic book, novel. And like I said, I didn't read the novel, so I can't comment on that perspective. And I didn't do much research on the novel either. So if you have read it, I'd love to hear your comments on the novel from that perspective. So thanks for watching. I'm out. Send me a